Like Janet Yellen is going to be the next Fed chairwoman or chairperson, whatever it is going to be, after Ben Bernanke. I think Larry Summers, he's out of the picture, which is a good thing, because Janet Yellen actually makes Ben Bernanke look like a hawk. She's very dovish. She's going to be very, and hawk means raising interest rates, tightening fiscal policy. She's going to keep the gas on until everything's fixed. And it's interesting because Bank of America, just recently says if the American economy doesn't accelerate soon, it never will, which means that's another indication there's more QE. Now, I know today you're looking at the markets and saying silver and gold and oil or whatever is all pulling back. Oil, I guess, because of slightly relaxed tensions in Syria, but things can change real quickly, very quickly, and you don't know. But the one thing, and this is really where I say it's good bet that the markets are going to go down and gold and silver is going to go up in oil, is because of, I'm not going to give you an analysis per se as to, the charts and all that. It's because of the way Georg Soros bet. George Soros has bet a huge bet, a major bearish bet that the S&P will go down. And he made this some weeks ago. It might be in October. I know someone talked about, the moon in October, but the half moon or whatever, something possibly could happen between the 18th and the 21st. I agree with some of that theory too. I don't know enough about astrology to get into it very deeply because it's even the best in that area don't predict correctly many times too. But it is something to take into account. But George Soros actually, to me, is actually more of a big indicator that the markets are going to see a major correction. And the other thing was the six Hindenburg omens. There's, I talked about when there was 2 omens, 3 omens, now there's 6. There's been 6, and it's been over the last several months. That the only time they had 6 Hindenburg omens, the last before, was when we had the major market corrections in the financial crisis of 2008, 2009. So that's, to me, it's a good indication. And if you look back at that period of time, what happened first? The commodities crashed first, and then the equities crashed later. And that's maybe what, as we're sitting watching things daily, day by day, you're like, what's going to happen today? What's going to happen tomorrow? What's going to happen next week? And I'm not talking over years now. I'm talking about we're going to see a correction pretty soon. It may be in October. October's always been a month, like if you remember October 87, and Mark Farber predicted that one. And you remember even a couple years ago in October of 2011, boy, they were predicting all kinds of doom and gloom. The Illuminati for 11/11/11, if you remember that garbage, and nothing ever happened. I didn't put nothing out on that because I didn't think anything was going to happen. But it is true though. October's always been a kind of a bad month. Not every October, but of the worst months in the markets. It's happened. A lot of crashes have happened in October, and maybe that's going to be just timed about right. Because the one thing that's really indicating to me that there's going to be a major market turn down is the George Soros bet, and also that could be coinciding with problems with the budgets, like I've been talking about. It's like it doesn't, once it hits the headlines and there's a problem because, there's these really staunch Republicans that they said they'll shut the government down if they can, rather than pass Obamacare. So, how's that going to help the markets, right? One day, today it's going up because it looks like Janet Yellen's going to be in, and she's going to keep the gas on QE till everything's fixed. She's going to be like twice as dovish as Ben, like twice as much of a helicopter person, dropping money from the helicopter. So it's going to continue. That's bullish for the metals, even though today it did not turn out that way. But it may actually be a reversal, like we've been seeing some reversals lately, like the markets have been turning down, and then the metals are going up a little bit, but it really hasn't kicked in yet. And it might be October. It's it's kind of interesting about the moon or the lunar cycles too. But let's also look at George Soros's bet in the 6 Hindenburg omens. It's going to play out. It's going to play out. And I'm not talking about next year, the year after, and all this kind of garbage. It's going to play out pretty soon. And, I did remark before about Vladimir Putin talking about Syria, and he put the ad out, and I think it was in the New York Times, about, America not pushing for, strikes on Syria and all this kind of stuff. I still, it's just amazing. I don't know, some people see it, some people don't. But I see, it's like, I'm not thinking like the average American, just like, oh yeah, go USA, and the bad guys are on the other side all the time. I see Vladimir Putin as part of the New World Order. He is. He's playing a game. The game is to, the part of the New World Order wants the United States out of the way because we got the Bill of Rights. We actually have a system of government that's in place that is a big problem for the elitist. And so if people demand change, just like, we had the shooting today with in Washington on Naval Yard, who the hell knows if that was a staged shooting, I don't know. But, they'll use this to knock down people's rights more and more. But the thing is, they want you to move away from what America's really about and go to something else. And Putin's leading the charge of something else. And that something else is worse. Believe me. You want to have a good system versus a good leader. And I don't even think Putin's a good leader because it's all an act. Believe me, it's an act all the way. The guy has probably far more wealth than two of the oligarchs that he slammed put together. That's how much wealth this guy's got. But people say, it's just Western propaganda. Oh boy. Anyway, I'm not going to even argue with that garbage anymore because it's quite obvious what the guy's about. But I just want people to realize that you're being played in shrewder ways than you even realize. And I'm a couple light years ahead of the curve on a lot of different things, and I knew about this shit for decades, how this was going to play about. The world is deliberately going to be put against the United States because the elite want it that way, because the United States in its way of life, in its system of government, is the biggest problem to the elite. And they want Americans fighting each other. So, even though this is a silver update, silver's all about survival and independence and financial independence. So I want people to understand just how the game is being played. It's not as simplistic as you think. So it's quite complicated in some ways, but in a way it isn't. It isn't, because it's been laid out exactly how it was going to play out years and years and years ago by Major Anatoly Golitsyn. And if you want to say there's one person I studied who's a strategist that's actually been dead on accurate all along, well before the Soviet Union ever fell apart, it's been Major Anatoly Golitsyn, former KGB who defected in 1961. So he's been correct all along. I can't see why he won't be correct in the future. So they're playing a game. Putin's playing a game. But looks like, I think in October is, and that's not far away. I'm talking maybe mid-October. Maybe it will be during the lunar cycles, 18th to the 21st. You'll see a major market correction sometime pretty soon. And this George Soros, he don't make big bets for nothing. It was headline news a while back on August 15th. And, it's like, here it is, later in September, over a month later. And people are kind of forgetting about it, But that's how the bet is. It's not for the next day. It's going to happen in the next several months. So I'm going to assume October is going to be looking good. Just think about it. The Republicans, there's a lot of staunch Republicans that will not go along with this Obamacare. They'll shut down the government if necessary, just like it was done in 1995. And that is not going to be good for the markets. So, but that might be very good for gold. That might be very good for gold. So, and let's just see how it plays out with Syria, because now that the tensions kind of ebbed and went down a little bit, they're going to hit a new crescendo, and that may bring oil up to new heights again, which will bring up gold and should pull up silver again. So just be patient. It's not going to be too much longer. Things are heating up pretty damn soon. So just hang on, and Janet Yellen looks like a perfect shoe-in right now. So that means if you talked about Ben Bernanke doing QE, she's going to do a lot more QE. And, it looks like the government might get other numbers than the fudge numbers that they're getting, and that'll cause Janet Yellen to really put the gas on really hard because, even though we've had stories about them tapering right now, that might not be the case at all, and that's what I'm thinking. It's like a game, and people who know the news stories beforehand, they can play in and out on a daily basis. I don't know what the news stories will be in beforehand on a daily basis, but I do have a good indication as to how they're going to play out in the medium term. So just hang on.